Hey guys, this is the Old English D podcast for Tuesday, July 16th. My name is Josh. This is the first episode of the solo host episode. We'll see how things go. See where the night takes us here. I am currently recording on Sunday, July 14th. I just finished watching the MLB draft, or at least bits and pieces of it. I watched up to the Tigers pick and then kind of kept track throughout the evening. Since then, before we get started here, one thing that I would like to say off the bat, I really need to thank my previous co-host Casey for all of the intros and things that he did over the last few years, because holy cow, I sat here trying to record this for the last 10 minutes and trying to figure out what in the world I was going to say. How he came up with anything to say is beyond me. So yeah, what a way to start off this new era that we're in for the podcast. A lot of really exciting things happening on the baseball front. A lot of really interesting things happening accolades wise for the Tigers, the draft, obviously, as I said. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to kind of outline where we're at right now. We just finished up the first half of the season for the Tigers. The Tigers are currently fourth place in the American League Central. We are 12 games behind Cleveland, who's in first. We are 7.5 games behind the Minnesota Twins, who are in second. And we are 5 games behind the Kansas City Royals, who are in third. And just for reference, we are also 7 games behind in the wild card right now. So going forward with the podcast, everybody, this is going to be kind of a test run, see how things go, see how things shake out. I put a couple of polls up on the social medias on, length of podcasts, what you guys are feeling, what you guys kind of like to listen to, and also date of release. I think we're going to keep our release date on Tuesdays for now, just because it's kind of familiar with the schedule and things, how we were running things. Yeah. So before I get too excited, too ahead of myself on the MLB draft and all of that, I thought it would be a good place to start to kind of go over where we got to this week. I know there's so much going on more recently, but this week did somehow start with a series against the Guardians. That series seems like it was forever ago. I don't understand how that happened, and I think part of that is because of the last 3 days, the series against the Dodgers, how it went, the results that we found, just the weekend, and just all of the games going that way. But in that Cleveland series, I think, and even back before that in the Cincinnati series as well, one thing that I really noticed of this team is the grit. It seemed to be missing for long periods of time with this team. And I don't know, it's something that had become a hallmark of the last 3-4 years under AJ Hinch as a team that even though a lot of times it felt like the Tigers weren't good enough these last 3 years, they found ways to stay in a lot of ball games that they maybe shouldn't have been in, and just they pieced it together. And that was missing for, I think, probably the first couple months, minus maybe that first week. Obviously, we figured out a way to win a lot of ball games early, but they found it this week, it seems. Pretty much just after that Minnesota series, that 12-3 loss in Minnesota, it feels like it sparked something. Obviously with the sweep in Cincinnati, showed a lot of grit there, and then coming into this week with a really, really good series win at home against the division leaders, the Cleveland Guardians. Just super exciting baseball happening right now, and it's good to see. A lot of crowds were out this week. So I thought I'd go and tell my quick thoughts on each of these games this week. We'll see if this makes it through, but I have a lot of thoughts on the Dodgers series that I'll get into here in a minute. But to start off, I really had to go back and remind myself a lot that happened in that Cleveland series, just because, like I said, a lot happened, and just the craziness of obviously the Dodgers. Game one on Monday, if you'll remember, was that barn burner of a 1-0 win. That was Kiter's first start this week. Kiter Montero. He went out and threw one of if not his best start in the majors. He came out and had some really good control, some really good action on his pitches. He threw 6 1/3 with 3 hits allowed, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. And really gave the team the innings they needed that game, because obviously a 1-0 game, you're going to have to throw up a bunch of zeros, and the Tigers threw up 9 zeros to shut out the Guardians. The lone run of the game came on a fielder's choice when Canna put in play a ground ball to the shortstop. I believe it was on error. But that was a crazy way to start that home series against Cleveland. The next game was Kenta's final start in the rotation. If you remember, he had that just awful start. He only went a couple innings, and it was a struggle. He went 2 2/3 in that game, and he really just it felt like he did not have anything going for him, and it felt like a culmination of everything that we've been complaining about for Kenta for the whole year. And he's had some ups and downs, more downs than ups, honestly. And the whole entire outing, I just kept saying to myself, this has to be his last start in the rotation. This has to be the final time we see this, because every other game, the last 4 to 5 games, it felt like we were in. We had a chance to win the game because the starter gave us a shot to win every game. And then you get to the Kenta start, and it's just not that way whatsoever. And so he exits the game, and the Tigers somehow managed to crawl their way back into that game too. Like I was saying, that grit, that determination came out. Just four runs in the 6th to tie it up. And that was really the key, I think, to that game, just even being in it. They ended up losing in extra innings, some sloppy play, some bad relief pitching in that game. That ended up losing us the game in the 10th. They did put up a run to make it close there in the bottom of the 10th. But for whatever reason, I think because we came back from that awful Kenta start, it really didn't feel like it was that painful of a loss. It seems like a lot of the Tigers' losses recently have been just painful, excruciating ways to lose baseball games. But it obviously, you lose in extra innings, it's kind of a letdown, but it didn't let the team down too far, because they came out the next night and they had a really, really good outing against Bybee. The Tigers seem to have Tanner Bybee's number. We seem to hit him for just the amount that we need to. We seem to score enough off of him to get him out of games semi-early, it seems. And even when he was in the whole Rookie of the Year conversation last year, I never really understood it, because it seemed like the Tigers seemed to, every time they played him, they got to him and they scored some runs off of him. And I never understood. He ended up going 7, allowing 4 earned runs. He had 3 walks, so his pitch count ended up pretty high. But I think they were trying to save their bullpen a little bit in that game as well. And the Tigers rode another great outing from Reese Olson to a victory. Some shenanigans happening later on in that game. Foley in the bullpen doing bullpen things, which was great. And I think Faedo ended up being the one to allow the run. But still, you like this team when they're in games late right now. and that's kind of what happened there. And then Thursday's game, the 10-1 victory. Jack had a awesome comeback start from his injury. Kind of injury concern, back issue, whatever. 6 innings pitched. They kind of pulled him probably earlier than they really needed to, just because of the score of the game. When they pulled him going into the 7th, I believe it was already 10-1 the final score. So they pulled him a little bit earlier, let the bullpen get some work. Shelby ended up closing it out, having 2 really good innings for Shelby Miller late in that one. And that's really the story of that game, was some tenacity hitting wise, and Jack Flaherty in the bullpen putting together a really solid game as well. No one from the Guardians seemed to have it together in that series. And even in the game that we lost, we got a run off of Clase A in the bottom of the 10th. I know it was a ghost runner, but the Tigers found a way to manufacture some base runners and some action. And it was a really good feeling. It was a really good feeling to play well against a good team, especially a good team in the division. And to come out with a series win, a 3-1 series win, 3-1, against a really good baseball team in a 4-game series is huge for this team. And it was moving forward, especially when you know that you have the Dodgers coming into town. The Dodgers coming off a really rough series in Philly against a good team. They didn't seem to have it against Philly. Nobody seems to right now. And it kind of, you kind of give yourself hope going into that series if you're the Tigers, especially when you have Skubal going in game 1. And I mean, this whole Dodgers series, guys, it was just one confusing, weird game after another. That Skubal start on Friday, you have the City Connects going. You score early in a Skubal start, which always feels like you have a great shot to win the ball game. When you got Skubal going on the mound, he's electric. He's been shutting people down. He's been throwing lights out, and you put up 3 runs in the first 2 innings. You have a great feeling about the ball game. I was texting Casey, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna sweep the series," and I know it's stupid, but I mean that's the way it felt. Just because you have that feeling of when you have the best pitcher in baseball going, and that's what Skubal is for anybody who has any questions. When you have Skubal going like he was early, and you score runs early off of the Guardians, or not the Guardians, rather the Dodgers, you feel like you have the opportunity to win every single game the rest of your life. It just gives you such a great feeling. And then things kind of started to spiral a little bit. Dodgers came out and manufactured a couple runs in the 4th to make it 3-2, and the Tigers' offense just shut down for some reason. And again, another example of just the streakiness of this offense and the bats in this team. It was really odd, and I don't think that you could really point to anything specific. Just nothing was falling, nothing stopped working. There was some decent at bats and all, but just another weird occurrence. And as good teams do, the Dodgers found a way to win the game late. They put up runs in the 8th, 1 run in the 8th, 1 run in the 9th to tie the game and take the lead. And nothing in really spectacular fashion either. You get a run off of a guy like Brisky, who hasn't been allowing much at all. You get a run off of Foley, who, recently hasn't been his early season self for sure. But you see Freeman hit the home run, and that was really the only really big blow of the night. And it was really deflating. It really was. After the series against the Guardians, after the sweep in Cincinnati, you think you're on the right track. You have an early lead with Skubal, and you blow it. And my immediate thought was, yeah, there's no way we're going to win a game this series. We're getting swept. Because at that point, in my head anyway, we have Kiter Montero going on Saturday, and maybe you have an opportunity. He pitched really well his last start, but it's the Dodgers. The Dodgers will, again figure out a way to win the game against a rookie starter. They don't really have a lot going on for them right now. They have a lot of injuries, but again, they're a great baseball team. Even the backups are really good for that squad, and you just feel like it was a very sobering moment for a lot of Tigers fans. It felt like, you lose a school start like that, and you're going against one of the best teams in baseball. It's not going to end well. But the Tigers figured out a way to have one of the greatest games that I've seen in a long time on Saturday. It's the greatest statistical comeback when a Tigers team has had since, I think, that Rays game back in the teens. I think it was 2016 that happened. I'd have to go back and check. But yeah, going into the ninth inning, Tigers were down 9-4, and it was again just scraping by. You look at the way that ninth inning played out, and it's just another one of those games where the young bats, maybe get hot. You think about it that way. Maybe they're figuring things out. We'll talk about Colt Keith, obviously, a little bit later in a little more detail, but it just feels like when this team gets in this place where they can piece together at bats, they can piece together a rally, that anything can happen. And then, this was just a culmination of that, to the point where you thought that there was no way they were going to get out of the ninth. You thought that they would take it in the ninth. That ninth inning, and this is just for me to relive it too, because it was so crazy. I had the game up on game day because it was 9-4. Things had gotten a little out of hand. Kiter's start didn't go the greatest. He had a kind of a decent game. He struggled at times. And I was just like, you know what, that's okay. I'll watch on game day, and I've got some other things I need to do. I'll check in every once in a while, and I start to see this rally come together, and I'm like, okay, I'm not saying anything. We're down by 5. There's no way. I just need to continue to not pay attention to it. And I tell you guys, I'm not superstitious. I'm not. Anything else in this world, it's whatever. It's not my ideal. I don't believe in it, whatever. When it comes to this in baseball, I don't know what it is. I know it's dumb to have that viewpoint, but here we are. I'm going to not watch the game live because, they're playing bad and they start to play well, and I can't turn it back on because, you never know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but that's okay. But this ninth inning starts Wenzel Perez with a single. Really nice. Wenzel been really solid for this team, just really constant force. Justin Henry Malloy with a single, back-to-back singles. Wenzel Perez goes to third. Jahan has been really figuring it out here recently. Matt Vierling doubles, slaps it down the line to score 2. Justin Henry Malloy scoring from first on that play was crazy. And then you get to 9-6, and you start to think, okay, 9-6, we're only down by 3. And we got a runner on second. Okay, we start to get interested. And again, this is where I'm sitting looking at my phone like, wow, we scored a couple runs. That's good. I'm not going to say anything. It was against kind of their maybe mop-up guy. I'm not quite sure what Ricky Vanesco is to the Dodgers. That's the pitcher that they started out in the 9th with. But they brought in their closer. They brought in Evan Phillips to kind of stop the rally and stop the bleeding, get the dub and get out of there. They didn't want to mess around. Dodgers didn't really mess with it too much. Riley comes up, and somehow in all of the pandemonium of this, Riley Green really wasn't a part of this rally. he ground out to second base in the first at bat off of Phillips. And granted, Phillips is a tough at bat. He's a really good closer on his day. But moves Veerling to third with an out. And I didn't look on my phone until after the next hitter, which is Jake Rogers, come on and strike out. And I see runner on third, 2 outs, still 93. And I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, 2 outs, it's over. Like maybe we score the runner from third, and it is what it is. So I'm sitting on the couch. I'm keeping close track of it now, and I see Carson Kelly singles. Singles drives Matt Veerling in. It's 9-7. And then you start to think. You're like, okay, we're down by 2. Runner on first. Tying runners at the plate. Who's hitting now? Oh, wait. It's Colt Keith. Oh, Colt Keith's been on a absolute heater. He's been scalding the ball. He's been, dropping hits in all over the place. He's been just making a lot of really good contact. He's looking really, really comfortable at the plate right now. He's really starting to figure out this whole, Major League Baseball thing. And yeah, he smokes a ball. I shouldn't say smokes. He got enough of the ball. He hit the ball hard. He hit it 95 miles an hour. Sneaks it over the fence in right, and it's a tie game. 5-run comeback. It's 9-9, bottom of the 9th. And again, like I said before, once you get to 9-9 in that situation, in your head, you're surely thinking, all right, well, next guy up's going to hit a walk-off home run. Because, what else can happen this inning? Zach McKinstry comes up in singles, steals second, and then Valade, to his credit, he grounds out to end the inning. And you think to yourself, that was the greatest comeback that I've seen in a long time. And somehow we're going to go to extra innings now. The Tigers have not been the greatest lately in extra innings. We're going to figure out a way to allow 1 or more runs in the top of the 10th, and it's going to be curtains because we're not going to be able to score runs because, obviously streaky offense, and it's going to be over. And to some extent, Will Vest made it interesting for sure. That top of the 10th goes strikeout to Barnes. And to clarify, extra innings, you have a runner at second base to start with. So you have a runner on second, nobody out. Strikeout of Austin Barnes, intentional walk to Ohtani, which, thank goodness, we figured out that we can intentionally walk him. We don't have to watch him hit lasers all over the field all series. And then Teoscar Hernandez gets hit by the pitch. And then you have the bases loaded with 1 out. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, yep, this is how it ends. This is how it's going to end. It's going to be awful. They're going to hit a grand slam or something crazy because Freddie Freeman's up. And Freddie Freeman has been smoking pitches and clearly homered off a Skubal. Will Vest isn't going to be an issue. He gets up and hits into one of the weirdest double plays I've ever seen in my life. I don't understand how they turned that double play. I truly don't. McKinstry fields that ball behind second base. I didn't think it was hit hard enough. I was like, okay, maybe we get it out at second. But Keith gets this Hail Mary of a toss from McKinstry, who's on the ground, and throws it to first, and somehow they get Freeman. I know Freeman's faster than that. I still don't understand the physics behind all of that. But yeah, everybody's going nuts. Everybody's going crazy because they don't allow a run in all of that. Somehow we get out of the top of the 10th, and it's still 9-9 somehow. So, excuse me. Yeah, and then, if you're a Tigers fan, you understand what happened in the bottom of the 10th. One thing in all of this, and we'll get to that when we talk about this game here on Sunday that happened today as well. Wenzel Perez and bunting. I know he has power, and I know he can hit the ball all over the field. Kid can lay down a bunt. Because he started off that inning, we needed one run. He starts off with the perfect sacrifice bunt to get Valade, who was running, to third base. And that really was a game changer. And I don't think we can say that enough. I don't think I can state it any more clearly. Winfield Perez's sacrifice bunt that moved Valade to third changed the Dodgers' complete outlook on that inning. It forced Roberts to move an outfielder to the infield to try to, prevent the little dribbler getting through to end the game. I still don't completely understand that decision that he made. I would have think that, Gio Urshela is a great contact hitter. He's probably going to put the ball in play. Maybe you can get yourself a double play in that scenario. Obviously, I'm not a major league manager. I don't know all those things, but maybe he was looking at stats that told him differently. But I would have probably tried to intentionally walk Gio, in order to get to Veerling. See if Veerling he's been hitting the ball on the ground. See if you can get Veerling to bounce into a double play to get yourself out of the inning because you've already got one out. But they don't. They bring that fifth infielder in, and they throw Urshela a pitch that's down for sure. It was lower in the zone, and I mean I'm looking at the track, the pitch location. It looked lower in person, and maybe that's because I thought he maybe got under it. But he threw him a sweeper that got way too much of the plate, and I thought he popped it up. Now, granted, they had nobody in left field because that infielder was on the infield. They had 5 infielders on there, so nobody was out there, so it was going to be a run anyway. But somehow that ball got, well, obviously 389 feet out for a home run to walk off the game. One of the more incredible Tigers games that I've watched, and I've been paying attention to the Tigers pretty closely for a while now. It just exhausting. It's been a really fun but a really exhausting way to watch Tigers baseball the last week and a half. And that was just kind of like case in point of course it is. Of course that's what happened. Yeah, just all around crazy ending to a game. And like I said before, you walk into that. Now we're on bullpen day on Sunday. We don't have a starter. We're gonna start with a bullpen game. Dodgers signed a guy and flew him out randomly, this random free agent, in order to make this start because they didn't have a starter to kind of be their opener for this one. It was a really weird game from the get-go, and you go into it thinking, okay, we got a game off of the Dodgers when we probably shouldn't have won any games this series after the Scooble start. You really think, thank our lucky stars we're here, but it's going to go badly. And it started badly. Brisky was the opener, which is a really weird decision. I still don't quite understand that. You have, I don't know. The bullpen was a little funky this series altogether, in every situation. But Brisky is the opener. He lays an egg. The Dodgers, granted, there was some defensive miscues in the outfield with Wenzel, and you give the Dodgers opportunities, they're going to score runs. Brisky ended up getting out of the first, but he gave up 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 runs total. And you sit there and you think to yourself, wow, you gave the Dodgers a head start on a day when our bullpen's going to be pitching the whole game. Can the offense cut it at this point? Are we going to be able to have back-to-back really good offensive days? And for a little bit there, it really didn't feel like it, but the bullpen scraped together a really good day. Thanks to the most shocking performance I think I've ever witnessed by Kenta Maeda. Coming out of the bullpen now, it was announced that Kenta would be a bulk bullpen guy for now because he can't cut it in the rotation. It's going to cast so many more questions going forward. So many just weird situations now the Tigers have to deal with, but they said he's not going to start anymore. He can't do it. He's going to be pitching out of the bullpen. And this was his first assignment. Was on bullpen day against the Dodgers. Hey, go out there, try to salvage something for us. Holton pitched next after Brisky, but then Maeda 3 2/3 innings pitched. 1 hit allowed, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. He had so many swings and misses. I can't remember the number, but it was an obscene amount. Shout out to some of the folks that were looking it up. I believe it was Chris Brown or oh man, I think maybe it was Jason Beck, but his all of his pitches velocity had ticked up at least 1 to 2 miles an hour each. And you thinking about it, that was his biggest problem in his recent starts. It just feels like he's not fooling anybody, and his fastball isn't enough to scare anybody and to get it by people. And you add some velocity to his arsenal, and he looks like a decent pitcher. So maybe they found something here for Kenta in all of this. Maybe they haven't, but it got what we needed today out of him. It really gave us the opportunity to try to crawl our way back into this one. And that's exactly what this Tigers team did. They scored 1 in the 4th. They scored 1 in the 6th. Just to get it to 3-2 at that point seemed like a victory. The Dodgers had Yarborough come in after Honeywell, the guy they picked up after he finished his 3 innings. In that 2 2/3 innings from Yarborough, he gave up 5 hits and walked 2. And we only got 2 runs off of him. I really felt like that was kind of a disappointment. We had a lot of opportunities to score there where we didn't. And that felt like, you give this team enough outs and enough ways to get out of jams. They're going to take that and they're going to run with it. And it seemed like they were going to, because they only gave up the 2 runs, like I said. And this team, this gritty, whatever, they get out of the 9th again, and they figure out a way to do that. Faedo came in and was sketchy and made it difficult, because nothing can be easy with this bullpen and this team. Faedo came on, got him out of the 9th, out of the top of the 9th. And when I tell you the chaos again in the bottom of the 9th inning at Comerica Park, of a completely different kind than Saturday. I've never seen an opponent of the Detroit Tigers do a Detroit Tigers impression better than the Dodgers did. Yohan Ramirez came on and got the last 3 outs in the 8th, and then for whatever reason, Dave Roberts left him in the bottom of the 9th. And I think they're dealing with a little bit of bullpen fatigue as well. They were just trying to make it to the break, get their guys rested or whatever. But McKinstry, after looking dumb on the first 2 to 3 pitches of the at-bat against Ramirez, Ramirez hung, I forget what pitch it even was. It was an off-speed. He hung it to him, and McKinstry tripled down the line. And then Malloy comes up, singles, just drives a single to center field on a great swing. Again, Malloy's been looking a lot more comfortable at the plate. He's really putting these solid at-bats that he's had to use. He's having good at-bats and getting results now too, which is really making him a weapon. But he singles. McKinstry scores. We've got a tie game again. Nobody out. Bottom of the 9th, tie game, runner on first. Here we go again. And you have Ryan Valeda, who, to his credit today, had 3 hits before the 9th, I believe. I need to look that up, because I need to give him some flowers too. He had 2 hits 2 hits and a strikeout. But since he's been back up with the team, I think has 9 or 10 hits with the team, which is crazy. He's looked really good. He's looked like a really solid option off the bench, which, for what it's worth, Badu was not. Badu was not doing it. Yeah, but anyway, Vlade was great. Vlade is tasked with laying down a bunt to get Justin Henry Malloy into scoring position with 1 out. Vlade lays down not a great bunt. Was not a great bunt. I think even he would admit. He kind of popped it up a little bit. But Ramirez on the mound, again, seemed a little bit anxious. He seemed like he looked to first to maybe get the throw going before he got the ball. Kind of booted the ball, and everybody's safe. Everybody's safe. You have runners on first and second. You got Vlade at first. You got Justin Henry Malloy on second. And you've got Wenzel Perez up at the plate. And man, when I tell you, yeah, there's a lot of hitters on this team right now that I would love to see at the plate in a clutch situation, because we've been seeing them in clutch situations the last week and a half. You look up and down this lineup, and there's all sorts of guys that have been doing it, getting clutch hits in clutch spots and coming through. Wenzel Perez did not have a good day today. He was 0 for 5 with a strikeout. But he had one of the nicest bunts that I've seen. He laid it down again as a sacrifice. This bunt was laid down to move the runners to second and third with 1 out. To put runners in scoring position and even 90 feet away with 1 out, so that a guy hitting behind him, Colt Keith, could come up and try to win it, to try to drive the run in by a sac fly or whatever. This bunt was not laid down as a hit or to do anything. But it's like they said when we were growing up, Little League, put the ball in play. Just put the ball in play, make them make a play, make the other team make a mistake. That's all you can do. And Wenzel lays this bunt down. And I don't know what Ramirez was thinking. I think he was trying to keep the runner from advancing to third with less than 2 outs to set up the sac fly. I think in his head, he's thinking the ball is bunted to the third base side. I'm going to be closer. Maybe I'll have a chance to get the force out at third to not, allow that runner to be that close to score on the sac fly, whatever. He picks up the ball. And when I tell you that, I think it was Kike Hernandez who was playing third at that point, he could not even get to the ball. The throw was so bad. It was up the line. It was down by the tarp. And Malloy was not only safe at third, but he scores to win the game on a sacrifice bunt. On a sac bunt, not on a suicide squeeze, whatever. Again, just complete mayhem. Back-to-back walk-off wins against the Los Angeles Dodgers to win a series. Just mind-boggling stuff. How the Detroit Tigers managed to win a series against the Los Angeles Dodgers when they lost the opening game of the series. And they lost it on a Scooble start day. They lost Scooble start, and they ended up winning a series against the Dodgers. 2-1. 2 wins, 1 loss. And that's how we go into the All-Star break. I think it's kind of a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other at this point now, but part of me thinks that, man, I wish that All-Star break wasn't here, because this team's figured out how to hit. You've got guys up and down the lineup. Like I said, Wenzel Perez has been so solid coming up from the minors. Colt Keith has figured it out. He's figured it out. He's hitting the ball hard. He's putting in really great at bats. Vierling has been solid this year. Again, hits all over the place. Riley Green, we'll get into it here in a second, but he's an all-star. He's been hitting great. He's hitting over 270 with a bunch of power. Carson Kelly's been on a heater recently. He's got a lot of clutch hits for this team. Urshela, king of just putting the ball in play. He's looked great. McKinstry has not been hitting great all year. and he somehow figures out a way to do it against his former team today. He's clutch. Ibanez, uh, just nightmare for left-handed pitching right now. Like I said, Malloy has been fantastic as of late. He's been really figuring it out. He's looking a lot more comfortable at the plate and doing more with those at bats. Like I said, and Valade, we talked about Valade. He's looked really good since coming back up from Toledo. Yeah, I with that offense performing the way that it has, I just really don't know whether I want it to be the All-Star break and break up the momentum we've got going here, or whether, man, maybe this is the perfect way to get some rest. You've had a great series. Your team's looking fantastic. Get some rest because we've got another really rough stretch of baseball coming up here. And I think I lean towards liking the break a little bit more right now. You look at the record for the team after the All-Star break. You're in Toronto for 3. You're in Cleveland for 4. It's a tough road trip after the All-Star break before you come home. And you come home and you have a 3-team homestand against the AL Central. You play Minnesota for 3. You play Cleveland for 2. You play the Royals for 4. All at home. That stretch of games is going to be really important for this team to really take another step forward and to improve their record, especially against the Central. But again, and even after that, going into the rest of August, it's like I said, Kansas City to start August. You're in Seattle and in San Francisco for a West Coast trip. Then you have Seattle at home and the Yankees at home. Who knows what Yankees team is going to show up? Talk about that for a second. Yankees have looked awful recently. They've looked really rough. But anyway, yeah. So the All-Star break's coming up. It's going to break up the momentum a little bit, but it's going to get some good rest. There's going to be some roster decisions that really need to be made on the break. I think the Badu move couldn't have come at a better time, honestly, for Valade. Valade's looked really good. There's going to probably have to be some sort of move made starting pitching wise with Maeda going to the bullpen. I think they're kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit on that. You've got some injury concerns with Javi coming out of the game on Saturday and Canna coming out of the game. Canna missing the 3 games before that as well with some sort of back hip issue, I believe. So just a lot of question marks roster-wise for the team. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. I really have no way to predict what's going to go on with it. But yeah, a few things here to hit at the end. Nothing super lengthy to go over, really. First of all, congratulations to the Tigers All-Stars. I know it's like All-Star game is going to be happening the night of the release of this podcast, but we don't know right now as of the AL starter, but Skubal is a American League All-Star, voted in by his peers, which is super important. It was not a fan vote. His peers saw what he was doing and are just seeing the production he's putting up there. Managers and coaches voting, and his peers as well. We don't know. We really would hope that he could maybe start the game. He's not going to be throwing a full outing and whatever. And we all know it's on 4 days rest, but we'd love to see that. Again, it's not been announced yet. I've not seen anything on it. But let's see here. Sorry, I got a notification. I thought it was the All-Star starter notification. It was not. But also, Riley Green making the All-Star team. This was a complete peers-related vote. The fans did not vote him in, but the rest of baseball looked at it and said, yep, he deserves to be an All-Star. We could not agree more here in Tigers Land. He's been really good this year. Very, very consistent. He struggled a little bit early this year with lefties. He's figured it out. He's hit some home runs off of lefties recently, and he's looked really, really good. So congratulations to Tarek Skubal and Riley Green for making the All-Star team. When this comes out, it'll be a night of, so hopefully they can perform well. I still think Riley was snubbed in the fan vote. I it's a little frustrating how the fan vote's been running. But speaking of the All-Star Weekend festivities, I do have a really quick bone to pick with Major League Baseball. The Futures game. The Tigers had Max Clark and Hao Yu Lee competing in the MLB Futures game, which is held just kind of showcasing the young talent in the minor leagues every year. It's held every year. It's a really cool opportunity to see the young stars before they make it to the majors. MLB has all these posts highlighting the different guys that have played in the Futures game, future big leaguers, guys that have won the MVP of the Futures game, all this stuff. But then they turn around and they schedule it on a Saturday in the afternoon at 4 o'clock in the middle of a slate of MLB games. When the teams are all playing, and the only place you can watch it is on MLB TV, which, this is more of a personal gripe here, so buckle up, but YouTube TV, MLB TV still do not get along, still are not compatible, so I am not able to watch. No one's able to watch. Just awful marketing from MLB on your stars. Just you want people to be invested in the sport, but then you schedule the thing that's going to help you grow the game with these new players, these young players, and you schedule it when nobody can watch on a really exclusive network. It's frustrating, but that's my soapbox for that. But today's drama was the MLB draft, and this also is a little funky how they scheduled this. I still think it could be its own deal. Its own thing, but they make it a part of the All-Star Weekend. They make it a part of all of that. But the Tigers picked 11th, and it was a little weird. The players involved in this draft and the position the Tigers were in, it was a little odd because you had anywhere probably from 6 to 9 or 10 guys that you thought would be in the top 10. You think of all of the guys that got picked today, and again, anybody in that top 10 you probably think deserve to be there and probably won't be able to make it to the Tigers at 11. JJ Weatherholt, Nick Kurtz, Travis Bazana. I'm going to mess up some of these names. I truly apologize. I thought I was going to have to, for a second, I got scared. I thought the Tigers were going to take the switch pitcher, the guy who pitches with the left and the right hand. I cannot pronounce his name for the life of me. I think his first name is Gerangelo. Last name, there's way too many J's and I's and things there. Just there's a lot of guy, Caglione from Florida, a lot of really good high school or college rather bats in the top of this draft. And the only thing I could think of, for whatever reason, and I don't really know where this comes from. Maybe it's from the pitching woes that the Tigers have had, but just the way the Tigers have developed pitchers, I really wanted the Tigers to pick a hitter. And there was a lot of question marks as to whether a decent hitter was going to make it to 11, whether they were going to have the opportunity to pick one. And the order was a little weirder than a lot of people probably would have thought going into it. And, there was a couple of weird order-wise things. I thought the Caglione kid from Florida was going to get picked way earlier. But he didn't. He got picked later, and I think the Royals ended up with him, and that's going to hurt for years and years to come. Just, that's how it works for the Tigers. But it all really boiled down to the teams right in front of the Tigers. Whether we were going to there was going to be a bat there, whether there was going to be a decent bat that we were going to like. The Angels ended up picking Christian Moore, who's a second baseman from Tennessee. Thought he would have been an interesting guy, but the Angels took him. The really worrisome one was the Pirates. The Pirates took Connor Griffin, who is a high school bat from Mississippi. I really liked him. I thought he could be a decent option, but the Pirates took him, which kind of left a question mark. Like, hey, are the Tigers gonna now get a pitcher? If that was their guy, if that's the guy that they really liked, are they out now on a bat? Are they gonna only do a pitcher now because they don't like the other bat? Who knows? And with the whole Max Clark pick last year, there's a lot of question marks on what the team was going to do. So the next pick, I think, probably solidified it because the Nationals took Seaver King, a shortstop out of Wake Forest, who was not really projected to go that high. Maybe a little bit of a reach from Washington. Who knows? But I think 2 shortstops in a row there may have pushed the Tigers to go with who they did. And the Tigers drafted at number 11 overall Bryce Rayner from Harvard Westlake High School in California. He is 19 years old. He is 6'3". He's a big kid. He's going to be a shortstop. He's a hitter. He's played two-way in high school, but I doubt the Tigers are going to even explore that going forward. Same high school as a lot of current major leaguers went to, including the Tigers' own Jack Flaherty. Max Fried went there. Pete Crow Armstrong went there as well. I'm missing one. Lucas Giolito went there too, I believe. So a lot of pedigree with the development there. A lot of people compare him with his left-handed hitting and the infielder. He's getting a lot of Corey Seager comps, who's currently playing with the Rangers. If we can get anywhere close to Corey Seager value from this kid, that would be awesome. I'm going to do a little more of a deep dive on Rainier here coming up in our next pod, because there's not going to be a full slate of games to go over either. So look forward to that coming up. Again, to highlight, this team has had the best first half that they've had in years at 47-50. This is easily the best start to a season under AJ Hinch. And as a reminder, if the AL Central was how it was last year at the break, this team would be in a we'd be feeling a lot different about the team. To be at the All-Star break and be 3 games under 500 at 47-50 is a massive accomplishment for the organization. That needs to be stated. Now, moving forward, does the team need to do more? Yes, absolutely. I think there's a lot of improvements to be made, and I think there's a lot of opportunities that the team's going to have to improve their record, and it's going to really depend on their performance, what happens at the trade deadline, which is coming up rapidly. But yeah, the Tigers are going to be in a weird spot no matter what, and there's going to be people that think that they should move on from guys. They should trade Flaherty. They should keep Flaherty. I don't even want to get into the whole Skubal conversation. I'd like to get through the All-Star break here before we get into that conversation too hard. But that will be stuff that is coming down the pipe. I appreciate everybody for sticking with and for listening to the episode. Trying to keep them under an hour here, trying to keep it so that, I don't completely lose my voice for the next day. This is a lot more podcasting personally than I typically do on the daily basis. But yeah, I think it went pretty well. I appreciate everybody for listening, for sticking around. I appreciate everybody who put input in on the social media. If you would mind giving this podcast a rating, I'd appreciate it. I'm gonna have to get used to saying I and not we. So look forward to that moving forward as well. But if any of you have any comments on the pod, any suggestions, anything like that, the DMs are always open. The comments are always open. Leave us a review. Leave us a rating. Tell us how I'm doing, and we'll see what we can do moving forward. But thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate it. Go Tigers, guys. We will see you next week.